Okay, Dr. Mindy here, and I come to you guys live today to start or continue the discussion of what breaks your fast. So last week I put out two different videos. I put out a video on how to know if something breaks your fast, the formula that I use. And then I also put out a video on where do you start with fasting? So I know we have a lot of different fasting levels on this channel. So, some of you, you all have different needs. And so on this Q&A today, I really want to be able to address some questions that came up on those two videos. But if you have more questions while I'm live here, just please put them in the comments. We'll try to get to them. So let me start off by, again, working on your mindset and so that you can start to think about some of this stuff for yourself. So that's a lot of my videos. I'm not just trying to give you a concrete answer, a very specific answer. I'm trying to help you think it through so that you can really start to do a lot of this stuff on your own and you know how to run your fasting lifestyle on your own. So here's how my brain thinks. What in the standard American diet, and I know we have people from all over the world, but in typical way that people eat is we get up in the morning, we have breakfast, and we were taught eat 6 meals a day, or maybe you eat 3 meals a day, but you're just eating all day until you have a big heavy dinner and then you go to sleep. Okay, so this is what most of us have been taught to do. When you first come to the keto lifestyle, when you first come to a fasting lifestyle, what typically happens is you start to realize oh, there needs to be a period where I don't eat. And it has to be bigger than my sleeping period. So the first step, before I even answer what breaks a fast, I want you to remember that you're moving from a lifestyle of eat all day to a lifestyle of I have an eating window and I have a fasting window. Those are the two things that I have to think about. So for me, when I wake up in the morning, I have my cup of coffee, and then I go about my day, and I already have decided in my head what my fasting window looks like. So if I get hungry at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'll have a glass of water, or I just kind of wait it out because I'm in my fasting window, and in my fasting window, I know my body is going to start to produce ketones. I also know that, all the things we talk about in here, that autophagy is going to kick in and I'm going to reset my dopamine. I'm going to get more BDNF and all those wonderful things. So in a fasting window, I really try to stay I try to not influence my body with outside stuff, drinks, obviously food, but drinks and gums, mints, all that. I try not to stimulate anything from the outside in because I'm in my fasting window. Then you go and you're okay, I'm in my eating window. And once you open that eating window, then you're going to have to decide, okay, so now I'm in my eating window. What am I going to do? Am I going keto? Am I going ketobiotic? Maybe I'm going to do plant diversity. Maybe I'm going to protein load today. Maybe I'm going to do autophagy and keep my protein down. So these are all the things we've talked about on here. I've done videos showing all the different ways you can vary your eating styles. So remember that in that 24-hour period, we've separated it out into two different things, fasting and eating. Okay, that simple. So the purpose of this conversation is, okay, well, what in my fasting window is going to cause me to come out of a fasted state? And this is the million-dollar question. And I think, again, I've given you guys some real concrete ways to look at it, but I want to take the conversation a little deeper and think about this just in a little deeper way. I think in order to answer your question of, does Diet Coke pull me out of a fasted state? Does gum pull me out of a fasted state? Does tea pull me out of a fasted state? All the questions, coffee, all of that. Before that question, what I want you to ask yourself is, what am I trying to achieve? So if I'm trying to get into ketosis, if I'm trying to reset my dopamine, if I want some BDNF, in those scenarios, then your coffee, your cream with coffee, your bulletproof coffee, your gum, your Diet Coke, your Gatorade Zero, all of those things are and there's a lot of like Stevia doesn't raise your blood sugar. All of those things typically are okay. So now you have to customize this for you because your microbiome, your gut microbiome and my gut microbiome are two totally separate microbiomes. So everybody's going to respond differently. But if you're trying to get into ketosis and you're trying to get BDNF, then yeah, your bulletproof coffee, yeah, your gum, those are probably not going to affect your ketone levels. Okay? Now go watch the video. I gave you guys the formula to see if it raises your blood sugar. If you are trying to stimulate autophagy, if you are trying to get stem cells, in those two scenarios, we can lean in on what researchers have really showed us. And what they're showing us when they do these clinical research studies, they're not introducing gum, they're not introducing coffee, they are keeping it a very clean, fasted state. So we only have that to go off of. We don't have a stem cell blood sugar or a stem cell reader. We don't have a autophagy reader, so we don't really know for sure. Whereas like with ketones, we can prick our finger and we can see our ketones in our blood sugar. But with autophagy and stem cells, we don't have access to that. I wish we did. And I know when I interviewed Naomi Whittle, she's working on it with somebody to get an autophagy measurer. How cool would that be? But if you're trying to go to those deeper, what I would call deeper levels of healing, then I would say when you're fasting, and the only thing you're doing is water. That is, like, I can tell you when we do the autophagy fasting or I do a 3-day water fast, I really try to minimize coffee, cream, teas, even mints in my mouth, like any kind of peppermint little beadlets or anything. Like I really try, when I'm trying to stimulate autophagy or stem cell production, I really work to be as pure as possible. If I just want ketones, yeah, you're going to find me putting butter and raw cream in my coffee. So I hope that, and let me know if that makes sense, because we need to evolve the conversation to a deeper level so that you know how to think this through. So remember, you have a fasting window and you have an eating window. When you're fasting, ask yourself what you're trying to accomplish. If all you want to do is get into ketosis, you want to be metabolically flexible, awesome. Then these little questions around, is your medication going to break a fast? Are your supplements going to break a fast? Probably not going to cause any change in your ketone levels. If you're trying to get stem cells and autophagy, the more variables you put in other than water, the more you're likely to kill autophagy, the more likely you are to kill stem cells. That's just a general rule. Now, I know a lot of you are going to ask, like, well, what about green tea? That stimulates autophagy. Coffee stimulates autophagy. You're going to see tomorrow, I have a video coming out that we know that there's a component of wine that can stimulate autophagy. So we do have some other things, but I'm asking you to really look at what you want to accomplish in your fast. And then the other thing I will tell you is if you have built yourself a fasting lifestyle and you're doing great, you've lost weight, your energy's gone up, you're feeling awesome, then whatever you're probably doing is working. If you are one of those people where you're like, I have been fasting, I've been doing keto, and I'm not improving, then that's when you have to micromanage the little details, and you got to take all the variables out. And it may be that gum you're chewing that is causing your body to not release the extra weight that you're wanting it to release. So sometimes you got to go down to those little pieces. Okay? Now, I know a lot of you love the fasting benefits chart. We've mapped out what spikes at how many hours of fasting. We're going to add to that in the new year when I do my Reset Experience, which is a live event. So if you want to join me at my live event on January 11th, just put reset experience in there. We're going to dive into all these little nuances. We're bringing in fasting experts, and it's here live in my town. So really excited for that event. And if you put reset experience in there, we'll just send you a link and you can go check it out. If you want the fasting benefits chart, you want to see what spikes at what hour, put fasting benefits in there and we'll make sure you get that. So, okay, with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. And really, any question is fair game. Anything that will help the group, the collective community move forward, I'm happy to answer. Sometimes you guys, and I love your curiosity, but sometimes if it's too detailed, it's hard for us to answer that because we don't know your complete health history. So, with that, I'm going to open it up.
Do you want to talk about what people should do with medication and fasting? What the process to go through.
Yeah, here's the thing with medication and fasting, and I'll tell you the same thing with supplements and fasting, is whoever put you on the supplement, whoever put you on the medication, you need to have a conversation with them about if you should be fasting with your medication. So it's really the job of the person that puts you on those supplements, put you on those medications to help coach you through that. Unfortunately, people are just waking up to the science of fasting. So send them to some of the science-rich videos I've done here, and that might help. But you really want to open that dialogue with them.
Okay. So we had a lot of the initial questions were about that.
Okay, cool.
Let's see.
You can also do the formula too. Test your blood sugar, take the medication, half hour later, test your blood sugar again. Did your blood sugar go up? If the medication is spiking your blood sugar, that might be the time then that you go and talk to your doctor. But you never want to change your medication or the formula in which your doctor put you on without bringing them into the conversation. You can do the same thing with the supplement. Blood sugar, take the supplement, half hour later, test your blood sugar again and see where it's at.
So this is an interesting question. We haven't had this. This is from Claudia.
Okay.
And she wants to know what the upper limit is for ketones when you should break your fast. Her Keto Mojo was reading high.
Oh, interesting.
And then it went down to 5.9.
Yeah.
But and obviously, if you're diabetic, you really need to pay attention.
Yeah, if your Keto Mojo is registering high, that would be the time to break it because they obviously have created some parameters. We typically say that anything that once you start to get in the 7 range, 7.0, that you want to watch it closely. If it gets into the 8.0, boom, you want to break that fast. Here's the other caveat to that is if you're feeling dizzy, woozy, and you're getting those high, you feel like you're lethargic, you feel like you're going to pass out, and you're getting those high numbers, then you're going to want to break the fast. But if the meter registers high, that's not a great sign. Sometimes it can be as simple as taking a scoop of nut butter or eating a half of avocado, some fat to kind of bring your levels down or to stimulate your blood sugar just a little bit, and it'll bring those ketones down. So I've done that with patients many times.
Okay. Let's see. These are more comments. So questions about, did it break my fast? Again, just measure yourself. Coconut oil in your coffee.
Yeah. I mean, the formula is whatever the thing is, you take your blood sugar reading, and then you eat, drink, whatever it is. Try to keep it as pure as possible. I mean, you could take coconut oil. It's not going to be very tasty, but you could put it in a little scoop in your mouth, and then half hour later, measure it again. So I've told you guys this story that I was blessed to about maybe 2 years ago. A friend, her daughter is a type 1 diabetic, and she was upgrading her continuous blood sugar reader. And she asked me if I wanted to use test out the old one she had. So I wore a blood sugar reader for a month. I did a 5-day water fast with it. I tested all kinds of food on it. It was so cool. I think everybody should have access to this. And for me, the one thing I noticed is anytime I put any fat in my mouth, my blood sugar dropped. That was just for me. That was like, wow, it was a real insight to see. I also was shocked at how much protein raised my blood sugar as much as carbohydrates did. So you can, I mean, it's a little more laborious, but any question, you just become curious about your own self. And you can be like, well, okay, so what, you know, how do I know my favorite tea? Well, test it and see. So.
Okay.
And it changes over time too. Right. So sometimes you got to go back and retest.
So this is a different question. We haven't had this one in a while. This is from Carb, Bob.
Okay.
They've been doing fasting for 3 months, back to back to back. They don't say what type of fasting. So,
okay.
But now they don't get hungry anymore.
Yeah, this is kind of an issue we all worry about, is that as you become more metabolically flexible and fat adapted, your just hunger goes away. So, you know, the general rule that we say is that once you open up your eating window, you want to eat. And sometimes that means you're just going to have to eat even if you're not hungry. I would definitely be checking your blood sugar and your ketones and make sure that you're always keeping your blood sugar at a good level and your ketones are at a good level. So make sure that with the limited amount of food, that those two are in balance. You also should be getting yearly blood work every year. I would be getting that and making sure that your blood work is good. That being said, the human body is not meant to eat a lot of food. So what you have probably been used to prior in your life is that you ate a lot more food because you trained your body to remind you to keep eating every couple of hours. Now you come over to keto, you're fat adapted, you're metabolically flexible, and you're living more in alignment with how the human body was made. So you know that there's like these studies that show the lower calories, like under 1,000 calories, or maybe it's closer to 1,500 calories, that when people had low calorie intake, their longevity was much greater. Well, that we're just not meant to eat a lot, and that's not how most people are living. So I wouldn't worry about it, but get your yearly blood work and be sure you're testing your ketones a lot and your blood sugar, and know your numbers.
There's another good question about not being able to sleep when you're fasting.
Yeah. I'm about to do a bunch on sleep because this is kind of several videos on it. This has been fascinating me. Is that what do we care more about? Do we care more about the quantity of sleep, or do we care more about the quality of sleep? And if you look at what many sleep experts are saying, and what a lot of people in the biohacking world, Dave Asprey's one, I recently dove into his book, Headstrong, is that it's the quality of your sleep that's the most important. So when we go into these states of ketosis, what happens is that we just, our energy levels, our ATP is upregulated, our mitochondria are working better, and we find that we don't need as much quantity of sleep. This is where something like a Oura ring or some measurement of the quality of your sleep could be really helpful. Because I know for me, when I go into the longer fasts, my deep sleep goes way up. You're supposed to get at least an hour of deep sleep every night. So my deep sleep can get up almost closer to 2 hours. But but I don't sleep as long. So it's pretty common for us to not want to sleep as much when we're in these longer fasts. But I really would implore you to go and look at, okay, but what is the quality of the sleep like? And I love the Oura ring for that. So.
Okay. Do you recommend one meal a day with a whole foods plant-based diet?
Yeah, I think one meal a day is in general a beautiful way to exist 80% of the time. And then I think that you need to do 20% variation if you're a healthy person. So if you're not trying to overcome a condition. Plant-based diet, also really, really awesome. And I believe for amino acids, we need to be eating meat or taking some kind of amino acid supplement if you're going to go plant-based all the time. So remember, I am a variation person. What I've seen across our platform here on YouTube, in our resetters, is that people find one way of eating and it works so well for them that they don't ever vary away from that way of eating. And I don't think that's the best way to be, because that's how we get stuck in ruts. So I would say yes, 80% of the time, if it's working for you, awesome. but 20% of the time you're going to want to vary. And you could vary it by intermittent fasting, not 1 meal a day. Maybe you do 15 hours. You could vary it by adding in some protein. You could vary it by increasing your carbs. But make sure you're not just doing the same thing over and over again.
Okay. And this is another good one. I think I know the answer to this. But,
okay.
This person has stevia, which isn't supposed to spike your glucose, but it does for them.
Yeah. Okay, so the deeper answer to why is stevia spiking my glucose, it comes down to your microbiome. So we have, and I've said this before, so if you've listened to me and you're like, she keeps repeating that, 10% of our body is human cells. The other 90% is bacteria. And we only understand about this much about our microbiome. But we're starting to learn more and more every year. And there's more and more research coming out. Well, one of the things in the last few years that we have researched is that our blood sugar can be controlled by our microbiome. So it's one of the things that controls it. So when you have stevia and you eat whatever way you're consuming it, it goes into the gut bacteria. It's possible that it damaged those bacteria that balance your blood sugar. So now your blood sugar goes up. So this is why we test, because that might happen for you, but for me, it may not happen. So I would say avoid stevia, and I would get a gut zoomer. If you haven't done a gut zoomer, that's the test I like that will tell you if you have the right balance of bacteria to balance your blood sugar, and also for things like weight loss and diabetes, all that kind of stuff. So you never want to take your eye off your microbiome, and for now, stevia is not working for you. Make sense?
Right, and the studies that we know that from were done on humans. We
right.
know that the different microbiome of people, and that was a study on 800 members of the Israeli Armed Forces, where they monitored everything they ate and saw different responses in different people.
Yeah, so what Sequoia's commenting on is that there's a study, and we'll link it in here, done on 800, was it Israeli military? Okay, I wondered. And what they found is that everybody responded to different foods differently because of their microbiome. So, and this is what we are learning just about across all the platforms, and this is why there has to be a level of customization for you. And tests like the Gut Zoomer can really help you understand that. So, and this is why, like, you know, your husband might or your spouse might be able to go on one diet and do really great, or your best friend goes on a diet and does really great, and then you try to duplicate that diet and you don't do so great. So, you know, this is why we have to come out of the cookie cutter nutrition world and go into customization.
Great question here about fasting and exercise. When is right and when is wrong time to do exercise?
Great question. So fasting and exercise. With intermittent fasting, 1 meal a day fasting, autophagy fasting, fast mimicking, I actually think it's a really smart idea to work out in a fasted state. So for me, I don't ever work out after I eat. I always work out in a fasted state. It accomplishes two things. You're already getting BDNF, which is brain fertilizer, when you go into these fasts. And then you add exercise into it, and it can give you some crazy mental clarity. So I like that. The second thing that we know is that you will actually start to burn more fat. This was actually years ago. There was a book called Body for Life, and this guy was the first person to say never work out on a full stomach. And he took thousands of people and he showed that he could help them lose weight. And one of the ways that he did that was by exercising them in a fasted state. This is before we even knew about fasting, before fasting was a fad. And it's pretty cool. And when you start to switch over, you will see that you can drop some more weight. So I like that.
I worked out today fasted.
Yeah, I think Sequoia was saying he worked out fasted today. I think most of my patients, most people who get into this fasting lifestyle, we prefer to work out fasted. Now, having said that, there is a time when you don't want to work out in a fasted state, and that's the longer block fasts. So anything 3 days and longer, When you go into those 3-day, 5-day water fasts, 7 days, 21 days, whatever it is, the whole goal there is that you're trying to tap into innate intelligence. You're trying to tap into this inner wisdom of your body. And you want your body to go into this accelerated healing state. And in that state, I do not recommend you exercise. Don't tax your body. If you want to sleep, like nurture your body. Don't necessarily push it and encourage it to go out, require more energy. So that's the only fast I don't recommend it. But all other ones, awesome, go for it. And if you're trying to lose weight, it could be part of your weight loss tool.
Okay. This is a different question.
Okay.
Lisa wants to know, since they started fasting and low carb, their thyroid has slowed down.
Fasting and low carb, their thyroid is slowed down. So I have two answers for you on that. One is variation. Make sure that if you still have a cycle, I don't know if it was a woman or a man, but if you're a woman, I would make sure that you're doing the hormone building before your cycle. If you're a man, again, too much restriction can be really tough on the adrenal glands, so you're going to want to throw in some feast days and some variation. Okay, second thing, I see this so much with patients, is that the more we go into the fasting lifestyle, it reveals toxicity to us. And one of the toxins that gets revealed are neurotoxins. Neurotoxins are heavy metals, they are BPA plastics, glyphosate, environmental toxins, and we are packed with them right now. So when people start to have thyroid problems, when they start to have hair loss, as they go into a keto and fasting lifestyle, it's very clear to me that we've got a toxicity issue. It's like the body heals in order of like priorities. So you go into keto and fasting, it starts to balance your blood sugar out perhaps, but then all of a sudden it says, hey, the next priority is this neurotoxicity. So start by throwing in some bigger days, some feast days, make sure you're varying it. And then if that doesn't solve the problem, then you're going to want to go testing heavy metals or go look at some kind of detox to pull that stuff out.
So here's somebody that wants to know their daughter is having epilepsy, and they want to know about fasting. So what do we know about epilepsy and ketones?
Yeah.
What do we know about?
Yeah, this is how we started this whole craze about the ketogenic diet, is that we found that ketones were so healing for the brain, and they discovered it on patients with epilepsy. So I don't know how old your daughter is, but ketones are tons of research on that showing that it can really minimize the episodes and the severity of epilepsy. So definitely want to get her producing ketones, get her fasting, get her on a ketogenic diet. Now, what if your child, I don't know how old she is, but what if she's too young to start to fast? This is where exogenous ketones can come in. So we'll again put a link in here of the exogenous ketones that I like. Those are ketones that you take and you put in water, and you would have her drink them, and that could be healing for the brain. But if you look at the evolution of how we even got to this place of fasting and the ketogenic diet being so rampant amongst the main public, it started with epilepsy. And we discovered, hey, ketones are going to help epilepsy. And then it moved to the cancer world. And we discovered, oh my gosh, cancer cells feed off of sugar. So if I take sugar out, and then everybody realized, oh, if I'm fat adapted, I can start to drop weight. So that's been the evolution. And sometimes we forget our roots. And epilepsy was the root. So yeah, Dominic D'Agostino. You can go see some of his work, Dr. Dominic D'Agostino. Look him up. He's the one that really dove into the epilepsy world.
And they first started doing that research in the 1920s.
It's right.
So it's been a long time.
It's been a long time, but then it kind of gets buried, which is so interesting to me because it was the roots, it was the foundation, but we forget. So.
Question about brain inflammation or brain and fasting. What kind of eating regimens do you recommend for brain health? So
there's lots of different conditions that affect the brain. So I don't know if it's memory or brain fog or what you're dealing with, but there are two major things that I would tell you to do if you're having some brain challenges. One is you want to lower that carb count down. Get the carbs down, get the bad oils out, work on making sure that you're not inflaming your brain with your diet, okay? Second thing is that your brain loves ketones, so you want to start producing more ketones. You do that through many of the principles that we teach here. And then I'll throw in a third one with brain, and that's this idea around BDNF. And I've done videos on this, that the longer you fast, the more you increase BDNF. BDNF is a protein that will go in there and it'll take the dendrites in your brain and it'll start to regenerate them. So it's awesome. You know, how cool is that? Just from changing the quality of the food and when you eat, you can actually regenerate the brain. To me, that's like anybody who wants to prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, depression, anxiety, all of that can be so dramatically helped by keeping our sugars down, eating the right oils, and making sure we're living a fasting lifestyle.
So, and one thing that we know about fasting too, there are some questions that just came through about cancer. Is some types of cancer, fasting is really effective with, and there's other. So everything is individualized.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's again, I love the enthusiasm and the questions that you guys are asking. With cancer, every cancer has got a little different root, but here's what you want to ask yourself with cancer is, what allowed these cancer cells to proliferate in my body? What environment inside my body made it so that cancer could thrive in there? So what happens is the medical profession will come in and kill those cancer cells, and then your job becomes, what do I do to make sure that I don't make more? What am I doing and this is where fasting is crucial. So I did go back and watch my Resetter TV that I did with Dr. V. I love Naisha Winters. I've done 2 videos with her. You can go back and find her stuff. If you go back and you look at Thomas Seyfried, he was the first person to really say, hey, cancer is a dysfunction of the mitochondria. It's not a nuclear dysfunction, it's a mitochondrial dysfunction. It's not a DNA dysfunction, it's mitochondria. We need to heal the mitochondria. And so you can go back and watch his work as well. So it's there's so much you can be doing, and fasting should be a part of it.
So we have time for about 2 or 3 more questions. Glycerin. This is from Stacy and Rachel. What do you know about glycerin? I don't know what that is.
I don't have a lot of firsthand experience with glycerin, so I don't really have have anything that I use it with. I don't have anything against it. It definitely hasn't come into a toolbox that I use with my patients.
And we're getting a few questions about CBD and cannabis.
CBD is really interesting. This is actually a good discussion, and we haven't talked about it here. So we have receptor sites in our brain and in our body for CBD. We have 2 different types of receptor sites. So one of them will support the immune system. The other one will support the nervous system. So CBD comes from 2 different plants. It comes from hemp and it comes from marijuana. So, and when it comes from hemp, there is some belief that it doesn't stimulate both of those receptor sites. When it comes from marijuana, there is some belief that it stimulates both those receptor sites. Now, what I'll tell you is that it really always depends on what you're trying to do. So the problem with both of these plants, hemp and marijuana, is that their roots are so thick and they are so vast that they pull toxins and heavy metals up. So heavy metals, glyphosate, up from the soils and will go right up into the plant. So you always want to make sure, whether it's hemp or it's CBD, that you're getting it from an organic source. So that would be the first thing I would say. In my clinic, we can accomplish so much just with hemp alone and the CBD from hemp. Now, there are different types of strength. So a lot of people will start to use CBD and they'll go, I don't really notice anything. Well, it might be that you have to step up a different strength. The other thing about whether you get it from hemp or marijuana, there is CBD has a building effect. So the more you take it, the more your body thrives with it. Unlike a lot of other medications or supplements, the more you take it, the less the body adapts. With CBD, it's the opposite. So you might have to find your strength, make sure it's organic, and then you might have to just take it over time. It's great for sleep, great for anxiety. We have a cream in my office that is incredible for pain that people rub on there and they're like, whoa, the pain's gone. It's great for building immune system. Like I know there's some really high potent CBD for cancer. So it has so many medicinal, wonderful qualities. You just got to be safe about how you go about it.
Okay, so this is sort of I did skip some questions. I'm just trying to get some general ones.
Okay.
So this person, Raquel, wants to know what they've been breaking their fast, I think, with fruit, mainly papaya, jicama, and pear, after 17 hours, and they're trying to lose more weight.
Okay, breaking your fast with fruit. Yeah, well, for starters, I'm curious I don't know if you're doing keto life or not. So if fruit in general, you should be doing it like mango. Is that what you said?
Yeah, papaya.
Papaya. Yeah. Okay. So let's just start with fruit in general. The fruits that will help support weight loss the best and help support a ketogenic diet the best are berries and green apples. They're the lowest on the glycemic index. So if you told me you were breaking your fast with something low on the glycemic index, then I would say, okay, you got yourself a groove there and you probably will drop some weight. Tropical fruits, papayas, mangoes, pineapples, they are really high in sugar. And I don't know how long you're fasting, but remember that the key to weight loss is to bring your insulin levels and your glucose levels currently down and then fast so your body goes after the stored glucose that it stored years ago. Well, if you're fasting but you're not bringing those glucose levels down, you may not be getting the weight loss effect that you're looking for. So honestly, I would ditch the tropical fruits, and I would if you really want to lose a ton of weight, I would ditch fruit for a little while until you keep the carb level down, keep that glucose down, fast a little longer. And then once you're starting to drop some weight, you may add the tropical fruits back in here or there. But I used to love mango, dried mango. Oh my God, it was like my favorite. And I don't even touch it now. So same thing with tropical fruits. Tropical fruits can help raise progesterone, but if I have either pineapple, papaya, mango, it's in very, very rare condition. So.
Okay. So last two, I'm going to give two questions.
Okay.
Both things you mentioned, products you mentioned. So what is the Oura ring?
Yes.
Then,
okay.
People had, what is the gut Zoomer test?
Okay.
And what do you recommend?
Okay, so this is my Oura ring. I'm not sure if you can see it. There's little sensors in there. So what the Oura ring does is it measures your sleep and it measures your heart rate variability. So there are other ways that you can go about measuring those things. Like there's a wristband. Some of you like the Fitbit. Some of you follow the HeartMath stuff, where they clip it onto your ear. I personally like it because it measures it when I go to sleep, and it tells me all the different levels of sleep. I also like it because heart rate variability is really important. It's probably one of the most important measurements of health. It is how well you're adapting to stress. So we have two nervous systems, one that revs us up, one that calms us down. When we're constantly stuck in fight or flight, what ends up happening is we become quite reactionary, and it's like putting the gas pedal on all the time. And what ends up happening is that you burn your adrenals out, you create havoc in your brain, and ultimately you suppress your immune system, and this is where stress kills you. So I watch on my Oura ring every morning. I get up, I look at a reading, and I go, okay, how am I adapting to stress right now? It's a beautiful measurement. I also look at the quality of my sleep. So it's my favorite. It's my personal favorite. I do know that there's wristbands. I know there's other ways to measure it, but it's the one I use. Was there another question?
The other one was about the gut zoomer.
Gut zoomer. So gut zoomer is another all-time favorite for me. So there's a lot of gut tests out there. Whichever one you pick, you want to look at two things. You want to look at, are they measuring pathogens? So bad bacteria that needs to be killed, so like Candida, E. coli, Salmonella, Klebsiella, parasites, viruses, those kind of things. Those are, you need to identify those. But then the other thing you want to look at is, how is the good bacteria? What's going on with the good bacteria? So in my gut zoomer, I can address both of those. And what I love about the gut zoomer is it'll tell me, okay, hey, you're missing the good bacteria to bring your blood sugar down. You're missing the good bacteria to prevent a leaky gut, to detox, to bring cholesterol down, to regulate your estrogen levels, to give you dopamine. This is what all this good bacteria does. So the gut zoomer is what we use. You can order it through us if you're interested. Just put gut zoomer and we'll send you a link. It is to date one of the most favorite tests that I do. Out of the gut zoomer, what we can do is customize supplements that will help to bring back the balance of those bacteria. So it's the most advanced techniques we have right now to repair your microbiome, because the way your microbiome needs to be repaired and the mine may be totally different. So
great. Okay, so that we're right at 40 minutes.
Okay,
so,
awesome. So let me tell you two other things before you guys all hop off. So again, Reset Experience. This is going to be an all-day event here local. We have a lot of people flying in from all over the world so far, and we are about halfway sold out. So, and we're in November. So if you want to come, definitely get your tickets now. And we'll put a link in here. Second thing, Fast Training Week. So let's see, it's not next week, but it's the following week. It'll be the week before American Thanksgiving. We'll be doing Fast Training Week. Perfect time to do a Fast Training Week. It's the week before Thanksgiving. This subject, what I'm going to talk about then is, or this Fast Training Week is, how can we all become metabolically flexible? Because what's really cool is, and I'm going to dive into the science behind the cell and the mitochondria, and really teach you guys how to get those mitochondria healing again. And what I found last year that was really fun is I watched a lot of resetters go into the holidays and they were like, oh, I went on vacation. Oh, I overdid it at the company party. And then what they noticed is the next couple of days they were fine, or they landed in January and they're like, actually, I was pretty good. I way indulged, but I did pretty well. I didn't have an adverse reaction. That's called being metabolically flexible. You can go into vacation, you can go into the holidays, and you literally could have your cake and eat it too. But you got to get your cells healthy enough to be able to click in and out of that metabolic state. So perfect timing to teach you guys this. So that will be the next Fast Training Week. So, and I'll teach it from here. I'll teach it in my Resetter group. If you want in the Resetter group, there's just a lot of good community support in there. You can put Resetters in the comments and we'll get that for you. And otherwise, we do it here on the community page. I'll come live twice during that week here in YouTube so that I can answer your guys' questions. So. Otherwise, you guys are awesome, and I just keep asking the questions, keep staying engaged in your health. You know, as I always say, your body is a miracle. You were born in a miracle. It's just that nobody ever taught you how miraculous you are and what you need to do to maximize that miracle. So that's what I'm doing here for you guys here on this channel. So as always, I hope that helps.